All right, guys. So here we are, day 34 of the $100,000 challenge, and you'd be hard pressed to try to wipe this smile off my face as I'm finishing the day with $8,053. So great day. This is, I'm on a little bit of a hot streak here. We've had a couple of really good days of trading. Yesterday I made $2,600. Today's 8,000. Last week I made around 20,000. So right now I'm up $69,000 on the month of February, which is my best month ever. I mean, by a lot. It's pretty ridiculous. And I'm up $111,000 on the year. In my small account, my quote small account, I will be closing today with about $77,000 in total equity versus $583 on January 1st. So, obviously this has been a pretty impressive 34 days of trading. I've had some good luck. I've also been willing to take on a lot of risk, and that's you don't get these kinds of gains without taking risk. And so you have to realize that, regardless of who you're looking at. If someone says they made like a huge return, you have to take that with a grain of salt because you have to risk a lot to make a lot. I was trading with leverage, using my margin, using the buying power, and that positioned me potentially on a really bad trade to go into debt to my broker. So, this type of return you have to realize is measured against high risk. But the risk to reward ratio is there, and that's why I've been able to get to where I'm at right now. So in the last 34 days, I've been trading with just about 81% accuracy. Average hold time is 9 minutes long, and my best day of the week has been Mondays and Thursdays. So it's been, it's really been quite a run, despite having a few red days. Now, I've had a couple of really bad days. In fact, this year I've made over $200,000 in winners and given back 90,000 in losses, which puts me around 110,000 in total gains. So it's definitely been a little bit, of a more volatile start to the year, certainly than last year, and it's the result of me being more aggressive. Now, something I talked about a little bit yesterday was the fact that this year I decided to do this small account challenge. I wanted to start with a smaller amount of money than I'd ever seen someone else start with. And I did $1,000 last year, and I wanted to go even smaller than that. So I planned to start with 700, but then there were fees that were taken out of my account because I funded it in December, but didn't start trading in January, so I got an inactivity fee or something like that for January. So I started for December, sorry. So I started January 1st with $583, and I figured, well, this is about as small of an account as you could possibly have with SureTrader. I guess I could have started with 500 even, but I wanted to really challenge myself and to see if it was possible to grow an account that small. When I started the challenge, I told myself that the goal for 2017 would be $100,000 to take that $500 account and turn it into 100 grand. And I knew that as soon as I reached 25 or 26,000 and I could open an account with SpeedTrader, that from there I'd really be in the clear, and it would be smooth sailing. I would just be able to continue making $20,000-$30,000 a month, and by the point I got there, it would probably only take a couple more months to reach 100,000. What I didn't know is how long it would take for me to grow the account. And I think I got a little bit lucky that in the first week I had several back-to-back winners. Actually, I had green trades, I think, for like the first 10 days of the small account challenge, which was a combination of luck and a combination of just strong markets and risk management, taking small profits when I had them. And that's kind of what you have to do when you're trying to build a small account. You think of the market and you're kind of like shaving off, little pieces of wood or something like that. It's a little clip here, a little bit there, a little bit there, and next thing you know, you've got a pile. And every now and then you go in for a small piece, and a big piece breaks off, and you're like, oh, hey, that's great. I just got a big winner. Throw it in the pile. And then once you start to build up this cushion, now you can start to be a little bit more aggressive. You can start to go in for a bigger piece, and if it doesn't work, it's okay because you've already got something started. And that's kind of the way I look at building a small account. Just taking little piece, little piece, little piece, and then starting to really step up. What has surprised me has been my ability to just kind of blow through the ceilings that I used to hold on myself in terms of share size. It was very rare last year for me to take more than 10 or 15,000 shares. Very rare. I mean, I think I don't know how many times I took 10 or 15,000 shares, but it wasn't on a daily basis. And now I'm doing it on a daily basis where I take 10, 15,000 shares or even 20,000 shares on a momentum trade. I think that, at first I was nervous about doing that because I realized that obviously the losses would be bigger, and they have been. My worst day this year, I was down $13,000. But, then you've got the winners on the other side that make up for it. So it's really just a matter of, can you handle looking at your account on a day when you're down $10,000 or $13,000? And, because you have to be able to do that if you want to be able to look at your account on a day when you're up $22,000, which is my best day of the year so far. So these are big numbers, and they're the result of taking really big size. I'm up $8,000 today on 3 names, 4 trades total. And on the first trade, it took 15,000 shares. Second trade, it took 15,000. Third trade, it took 6,000. Fourth trade, it took 2,000. So, I stepped up to the plate. I took big size. For the most part, it worked out well. I was green on 3 out of the 4 trades, and, this is the result. But at the same time, if I had lost right away on any of those first 2 trades with 15,000 shares, either of them, I would have easily been down 1,500, 3,000, or maybe even $4,500. But is it good risk reward to risk 4,500 for the potential to make 8,000? Right? And the answer is yes. It's a 2-to-1 profit loss ratio. If you do that and you are right 50% of the time, you make money. With a 2-to-1 profit loss ratio, if you're right 33% of the time, you're break even before commissions. So, if I can be right 55, 60% of the time, I'm going to do well. This year so far, I've been right 81% of the time. So I know that I can take big risk for big reward. If I want to risk 5,000 to make 10,000, and I want to do that on every single trade, statistically, I will do well. The only limit really in this scenario is the fact that I cannot buy 50,000 shares of some of these stocks. I probably could have of MBOT today, M as in Mary, MBOT, but I wouldn't have been able to on KBSF. So there's some liquidity issues in the market, and that's going to put a new ceiling on how much size I can take. Because if I wanted to buy 50,000 shares of KBSF, and I put out a market order, I mean, I would probably fill 50 cents or 60 cents higher, and that would be like $25,000, $30,000 in slippage, which is unacceptable. So there is a limit, but I think one of the things that's really good for every trader to do, as sort of as a person, is to test your personal limits. And I think that we often, when we're on the edge of our limit, that's when we can have the most fun. That's when we can be the most aggressive. We can kind of get outside our comfort zone, and we can learn about ourselves. And that's sort of what's happened to me. I've realized that I can handle losing $13,000 in a day and bounce back the next day like it didn't even happen. I can make $22,000 in a day and then bounce back the next day, with a pretty much fresh slate, not just very focused on what I'm doing today. It takes, I suppose, years of experience to be able to get to that point. But, if you just sort of move the decimal, and maybe for one of our beginner traders, today is an $800 day, and that's a really good day, and that's totally fine. Instead of taking 15,000 shares, maybe you're taking 1,500, and that's totally fine. So what I've learned is that this strategy has scaled well from my average positions last year to my average positions this year. Being more aggressive has increased my profits. And yes, I've had bigger losses, but I've had bigger profits also, and the net is very much positive. this month I'm looking at breaking 70,000. I mean, we've got how many more days in the month do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 more days in the month of February, and I'm at 69,000 right now. So yeah, I mean, I'll hopefully break 70 maybe tomorrow and get up towards 75. I don't know. We'll see. Right now I know that I'm about $23,000 away from 100 grand. So that's that's kind of the line in the sand. And one of the things that I also mentioned yesterday is the fact that I've read that very successful people set short-term goals that are really easy to achieve because it keeps you running, right? Like if you're, the bunny rabbit and you've got the carrot just dangling in front of you, you're running because it's just within reach and you just keep trying to grab it. And for me, I've kind of used that same technique with my trading account. I keep setting short-term, very easy goals, realistic goals, and then I keep working as hard as I can to hit it, to get to that goal. And then I get there, and then I put the goal just a little bit further ahead, a little further, and I keep doing that. And next thing you know, all those little shavings, have added up to this big pile. Right now, it's $77,000, and I'm going to keep doing this until I get to 100, and then when I get to 100, it's going to be 100 and 125, 150, 175, 200. I don't see any reason to stop. I'm just going to keep doing this and try to have the best year that I've ever had. And it's starting right now with $111,000 in 7 weeks. So, that puts me obviously in really good shape for the year. But I'm not going to set anything in stone. If I say, well, I want to make 600,000 this year, or I want to make $1 million by the end of next year. Those goals are too far away. So you don't really have that same motivation to get there because it's so far away. You need short-term goals. Stay focused on that. That'll get me, really driven, really motivated, and keep my head down, keep hustling, keep working. And next thing I know, maybe I'll be at 250 on the year, or 300, or 350, or maybe a year from now I'll be at 750 or $800,000. I don't know, but if I keep focused on short-term goals, I think that's really the best approach. All right, so with that said, we can go over the trades for today. I had no idea that today was going to be a big green day. I just came into the market the same as I do any other day. First trade of the day was MBOT. Now, this one was kind of interesting because it looked so good pre-market. Actually, this wasn't my first trade of the day, but this was the one that I was looking at. And I see BCLI popping up here on the high day scanner. Looks like it's getting a little bit of a parabolic move on the daily chart. I'm going to wait on that one. I'm not going to do a trade on it. But in any case, on MBOT, so this one, I was watching it pre-market, 650, and I was thinking, this looks great. We've got some nice, kind of consolidation underneath the $0.50. We know, and I'm just going to write this down. I want to make a note to add this to one of our classes. That consolidation under the $0.50. So if this had opened, I would have absolutely been a buyer over 650, 100%. Problem is, we moved up to $7 right at 920. And then we moved up to 715 at 925. So by the time the bell was ringing, we were already pretty extended. And I said, you know what, Ross? Don't chase this. The last time you chased stocks that were really extended pre-market, you took a bath and you lost a bunch of money. So let's just wait. Just wait for the first 5-minute setup. Don't push it. I was thinking about getting in as soon as the bell rang, getting in for a break of 7:15. And let's just say, if I had done that, well, I guess it would have worked because we went from 7:15 up to 7:50 and up to 7:74. So it would have worked. And I did that same thing yesterday on APOP, took 5,000 shares as soon as the bell rang and it popped up 50 cents. Fairly predictable, but a very short window of opportunity. And you had to be quick. Quick in, quick out. So on this one, I felt a little unsure because it was much more extended than APOP was yesterday, and so I waited. It pulls back, consolidates, and so I'm like, all right, well, while this is doing its thing, I'm going to look for something else. And here we have on the high day scanner INAP. hitting at 205, 210, 237, 240, 261. And I said, all right, well, look at this thing. This is really getting some action. So I jumped in this. Let's pull this back. 15,000 shares. And I added at 260. Now, right on this candle, we had a high of 264. And then we pulled back just for a second down to 252. And as we came back up and broke through that level, that's when I added, and I got my average at, I think, 268. I got a little bit of slippage. 15,000 shares is a big order. But when I looked at this, I was like, look, this is a stock that's squeezing up right now. It's got a bigger float than usual, but it's got the volume. 53 million share float, but it's up 43%, and the volume is spiking. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to ride the momentum. The daily chart looks great. And, so I stepped up to the plate, and I got aggressive. It squeezed up to a high of 303, and then it was halted on a circuit breaker. This is a stock that just squeezed up 100% from $2, actually not quite 100%. It squeezed up from 187 to 303. So in any case, a pretty big percentage gain, 55, 67%, and then it's halted at 303. Now, I usually, when I get into a stock that's squeezing up that much and it halts, they open higher. And I was thinking with 15,000 shares at 268, if this opens at 325 and squeezes up to 350, this could be a $15,000 winner. I mean, it had that potential, right? So when I first got in this trade at 260, my stop was 250, mental stop at 250. So I was risking about 15 cents, maybe a little bit more versus my average of 268. So the risk was about $3,000. Now the profit potential, if this had really opened up, was $10,000 easily, 15,000 potentially. We ended up opening lower, which is kind of surprising. We opened at 276, and as we came up here, I added, expecting that we would break over 303 and that we would go to high a day, but I only added, it was either 1,000 or 2,000 shares, and we didn't get that break. And then we came back down, and on this one, I stopped out quickly. So I stopped out with a total of only 13 cents of profit. I made $1,890. So, not bad, but obviously not what I had wanted. And this didn't quite match up to the level of risk I was taking on the trade, but it was a green trade. So, was going for a bigger piece, but got a small piece on this one. And this is relatively small. I'm $1,800. For a lot of people, it would probably be a big trade. But the way I've been trading right now, this is kind of a small trade. So small winner on INAP. And then I'm at the same time watching MBOT. And I see that it's active. It's really volatile. It's moving a lot. So I'm like, okay, I want to get a piece of this. I just have to think about how I can manage my risk. So I said on this one, I need to wait for a 5-minute setup. I can't chase it. This is ridiculously strong, but I can't chase it into this squeeze here up to 875. I need to get a pullback. So let's see. My entry on this one was right around 940. All right, so 940. Let's see, where is this? Right in here. Now, okay, so I took 2 trades on this one. The first trade I took was a scalp entry at right here after we got this pullback, this little red candle, a scalp entry for the break of the new highs, and my entry was 760. So actually, if we pull this back here, I had this candle close, so we had the first 5-minute candle close and the second 5-minute candle close. The second 5-minute candle had a high of 769, and that's when I decided to jump in. Now on this one, I was being aggressive, and I thought it was just going to take off. I really did. Ended up popping up to a high of 795, and then dropping down to 775. And on this one, I got in, and I kept adding. So I got in, and then I added for the break over $8. The problem is that gave me a higher cost basis. My average went up. So even though we popped here up to 819, my average was higher and I didn't sell. I was holding. Ended up coming down here all the way back to 785, and I went from being up, 30 cents to just above break even, but with 15,000 shares. And so that's when I said, all right, you know what? I just got to get out of the way. I don't want this to go red on me. I don't want to get 20, 30 cents of slippage with big size. I'm just going to get out. And so I sold and took the profit, only averaged 13 cents. So even though I held it through a big push up and then a pullback, I wasn't able to get as big of a win as I wanted. And then, of course, just after I get out here on this dip, it ends up going up to 869. So I was a little frustrated. I was a little annoyed with that, but it is what it is. I think I did the right thing by preventing a big position from going deep red against me. And we did get an exit indicator on the 1 minute. It broke over the whole dollar and then came back below it. That's usually not something we like to see. And at the same time, it was very extended on the 1 minute. Now at this point, we continue to squeeze up and we get 11 consecutive green candles. And I finally say, okay, I need a 5-minute pullback for my next opportunity. So we get a 5-minute pullback. And then what's very interesting is that right here at 10:04, which is on this red candle, we pull back and then we get the first candle to make a new high as it broke 865 and went up to a high of 867. Now I didn't buy here, okay? I didn't buy here because this consolidation was too extended above the 9 moving average. We didn't come down and test it. We were floating way up above it. And I said, I think this looks like a trap. I think it's going to pop up here and then sell off. And that's what it did. It popped up to 867 and then dropped down to a low of 813. So imagine there a beginner trader who's trying to be as aggressive as me and takes 15,000 shares here, let's say at 855 for the break of the first candle to make a new high. And then in this candle loses 50 cents. That's a $7,500 loss. This is the type of place where a lot of beginner traders will get, hammered because they're getting in, they're a little too eager, and they don't have the experience to realize that this is not yet really a clean pullback. So I waited on that, it didn't get in, consolidation, and then I decided to finally get back in. Let's see, my final entry on MBOT was it, let's see, 1050. So I see it popping up here, but at this point I didn't really trust it. It ended up going up higher, kind of felt a little annoyed that I missed it. Pulling back here, consolidating, and I decided on my final entry that I would get in right around, let's see, it was right on this candle here as we popped up to a high of 960, and I got in at 950. I thought as this broke over 950, right on this candle here, that would be enough to bring us back to high of day, up to the highs of 975. And I was wrong. I took only 2,000 shares because I really wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. And I ended up losing only 10 cents, $200 loss. So not a big deal. Of course, consolidated for a little bit and then ended up popping up towards 10. But finding some resistance at that level and now pulling back. So overall, MBOT, a stock that went from $6.50 to $10, I was only able to capture $1,700 in that whole move. Right out of the gates, it got extended. The first pullback was a little choppy with this false break, and then it pulled back, and then it did a proper move. This would have been a good one for scalping on the 1-minute chart if you were willing to get in and get out really quickly. But when I was trying to find 5-minute entries, I just wasn't really getting them, and the 1-minute entries that I took weren't solid. So a little bit of a tricky stock. Now, in the meantime, while MBOT was doing this consolidation, KBSF started popping up. And this is a stock that we've traded in the past. I saw it pop up and I said, well, it looks great, but it just went from $6 to $8.50. By the time I saw it, it was at $8. And then it squeezed up to a high of $8.70. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine, but I can't trade that. So I'm just going to wait. I put it on another monitor while I'm watching MBOT, and then I see it consolidating. All right, so at this point right here, this was around 10:30, we've got a little bit of a bull flag forming, right? We've got 1, 2, 3 candles of pullback, and I said at this point, the first candle to make a new high is going to be my entry. That's the spot that I'm watching right now. So first candle to make a new high, and so what I decided to do was be a little bit more aggressive on this. I started with 2,500 shares at 8.15. I tried to add another 5,000 at 8.50, and I only filled about 4,000. I had a total position of right around 6,200 or something like that. And my average was 828, right around here, 823 or something like that. So average around here, and then we pop up through 850 all the way up to 939 with 6,000 shares. So on that trade, we got the pop, and I'll just pull back here to the 1 minute. So we get the pop up to 9, pull back down to 853. First candle to make a new high gives us that pop up to 939. A little bit of a pullback up to 930. I put my order out right here to try to sell on the ask at 937. I didn't get filled. I ended up stopping out right around $9. So I got out around 905, 902. I think I sold some a little bit higher. And in total on that trade, even with only 6,000 shares, I made $4,746. So that was by far the cleanest trade of the day on a very clean 5-minute setup. Obviously, if KBSF or if MBOT had given me this quality setup, I would have been willing to jump in with 15,000 shares. I didn't want to take that size on KBSF because the spreads were bigger. So I knew I was risking more as soon as I got into the trade. But once it started to work, then I felt comfortable adding. So I started with 2,500 and then added once I was in the profit zone. For a moment there, I was a little nervous because the spreads opened up just after I got in, and it looked, let's see, on this candle, we went up to a high of 897, and then we dropped down, let's see, and closed right around 860. So I was like, all right, well, you know, this might be a little bit of an issue, but I've got a pretty good cost basis, so I'll give it a second. Let the first 1 minute pullback happen, and then more traders, more buyers came in here as we got that squeeze up to 939. So overall, a solid trade. I was also mindful on the daily chart that it was approaching the 200 moving average right here at 1064. So I was not super interested in taking the second pullback right here, even though it ended up working out fairly well. I mean, it pulled back now, but it was okay. All right, so those are the trades from today. A little over $8,000 in profit. I'll close today with about $77,000 in my account, so that's where I'll start tomorrow morning. All right, so what I'll do is answer some questions for folks, both on Facebook and in the chat room. I'll upload this video to YouTube a little bit later this afternoon. So David, you're asking, how do I sell on the ask? Selling on the ask is pretty easy. All I do is press my hotkey. Control K, Control L, and Control semicolon all put shares on the ask price. So that's what I do to sell on the ask. The review of Dash Trading platform is in class, I think it's class 12 of the day trade course. I go into the platform, I show you exactly how to set everything up, including my hotkeys. The statistics that I'm getting for my trading is exported from my broker and then imported into TraderView, and that's where I have everything. So TraderView, it's VUE. When I see a stock moving up, like INAP, I check the news. I go and check MarketWatch to see what the headline is. So MarketWatch is a pretty good source because they have, you know, anything that's syndicated for the most part is going to be posted there. I use limit orders for all trades. I don't use buy stop orders, and I rarely use stop orders. No, they didn't really charge much when I withdrew my money from SureTrader. I think it was a $50 wiring fee. So Jose, yeah, to talk a little bit about the spreads, you know, obviously on KBSF spreads are a little bit more of an issue when they were opening up to 20 cents. And generally when a stock has bigger spreads like that, I start with smaller size and I make sure that I'm trading a really, really good quality setup. And this was a really good quality 5-minute setup. I mean, it was solid. So this was the right entry. I had faith in it. I had confidence in it. and it worked out really well. So make sure you trade the best setups and usually sizing down on big spread stocks. I'm charting on eSignal and trading in SpeedTrader. Now, to get a list of the stocks that are restricted in SureTrader, there's a little red envelope in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can click on that, and it'll see the list. David, I think bracket orders are fine. I haven't figured out how to script them in Dash Trader. So, I think they're fine if you want to use them. I think it's the advantage is that you automatically put out a stop, so you help manage your risk on every trade. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Raphael, control semicolon is the other one, and those are the hotkeys that I have on SpeedTrader. Christina, the halts are, for the most part, we find out about the halts because we're trading a stock that just got halted, or because we're looking at a stock that's hitting the high day scanner, and then we pull it up, and we see that it's halted. So usually stocks, when they get halted, you'll get a little P for pause, volatility pause on the level 2, and you'll see that the level 2 is not moving. So that indicates that it's halted. And usually if you just ask in the room, someone will say, yep, it's halted on a circuit breaker. I don't use a route specifically where HFTs couldn't, cut in front of me or do stuff like that. I don't know for a fact that they don't. That may vary broker to broker. I'm not totally sure on the answer to that question. David, yeah, I'm trading on SpeedTrader. Usually if a stock moves up 10% in the last minute or 2 minutes, it'll get halted. I think NASDAQ Total View is good because it seems to have more market depth than sometimes just like the regional quotes. So I seem to prefer it. And yes, when I started this challenge at SureTrader, I had 6 times leverage. So my $500 deposit gave me a little over $3,000 in total buying power. And that's how I was able to grow the account so quickly. But obviously, doing that carried risk because if I lost more than 500, I'd be in debt to the broker. Alejandro, what I meant was that every time I press the buy button, I'll get charged commission. So if I press it 3 times, that's 3 commissions. If I press it once and the broker fills it in 5 increments, well, it's still just 1 commission. Jocelyn, I just use NASDAQ Total View. And I like eSignal charts, but thinkorswim charts are also really good. So a lot of students use thinkorswim for charting, and I think that's totally fine. It's kind of personal preference to a certain extent because they're both good platforms. And TC2000 is also really good. And Vladimir, no, I don't trade options. But Jeff does, and he's in the room. When a stock goes against me, I'm not always as quick as I should be with selling. I mean, sometimes I really just seem to hold and look at it and try to decide, whether that's a momentary dip and it's going to go back up, or if it's really an indicator that this is done and I've got to get out. And I'm especially hesitant when I have a really big position and I know that that slippage is going to make the loss even worse. I really want to make sure that I'm giving it the full chance. So, that kind of slows me down a little bit, but as long as I focus on really good quality setups, I think that I'll hopefully be able to avoid those situations. This year with 81% accuracy, for the most part, the situations where I'm in a trade and it just totally tanks are fairly rare. I mean, even if I'm losing 18, 19% of the time, those losses are not all situations where it tanks. Some of them are just trades that are kind of sideways and I take a small loss on. Yeah, Charles. So at the beginning of the challenge, I was only trading stocks between $3 and $6, and then since then I've been able to branch out a little bit more. John, I don't have a mobile app for trading, but I have my broker's phone number on my favorites, so I can just dial them real quick. And Amy, students get discounts with Speed Trader, right? Just because you're with Warrior Trading, you get a discount, $1 per share or $1 per trade, and then you get an additional $1 per trade if you're a Warrior Pro student, and that brings you down to $2.95 per trade. Yeah, David, generally a 1 minute red candle is going to be an exit indicator if I'm in on the 1 minute chart. Unless I'm up a lot. Like with KBSF, we had a red candle here, but I was entering on the 5 minute time frame. So I was like, that's okay. I can hold through one red candle because I'm still up and I'm basing this on a 5 minute time frame. Sure Trader doesn't give you margin on stocks below $3. When a stock is going against me, I sell on the bid, almost always on the bid. All right, guys. So with that, I will let you guys go enjoy the lunch hour, and we'll regroup first thing tomorrow morning. We'll do the pre-market watch list right around 9 a.m. Get ready for the open at 9:30. Hopefully, we'll have a good day on Thursday and a good day Friday. It's a short week, but so far, it seems like a pretty good week. I'm up about a little over $10,500 on the week. So we'll keep that, hopefully, momentum going into Thursday and Friday. All right, guys, any comments or questions, you guys can leave them on the YouTube or Facebook channels. All right, I'll see you guys soon.
Let's be honest. If you made it this far, you must have really enjoyed that video. So what's stopping you? Subscribe right here and get email alerts anytime I upload new content. Until then, happy surfing!